entrepreneur. This is Mark Newsom, Mr. Marketing. Welcome to this special presentation entitled Just Because There's an Economic Recession, ladies and gentlemen. Entrepreneur, that is absolutely, positively no excuse for you and I not to make money. Part 3. Ladies and gentlemen, part 3 of this video series is going to expose you to one of the most powerful, rarely spoken about, untapped long-term money-making opportunities as a direct result of the economic recession. I don't care what town you live in, you're going to discover an incredibly powerful, underground, untapped money-making opportunity by way of the discount media market. This market literally explodes, ladies and gentlemen, during an economic recession. Entrepreneur, you may not be aware of it, but major newspapers, major radio stations, and major magazines, billboards, all of these industries, ladies and gentlemen, have something called a standby advertising rate. What this means is they are willing to discount by as much as 75 to 90%, listen to me, off the normal retail rates simply by you paying cash. And two things, because I can already hear you saying, well, wait a minute, Mark. Who's going to pay full retail if they can get something for 75, 90% off? Well, here's the thing. This is the caveat. As long as you're willing to accept off times and you don't have a set time that you want the ad to run, then they'll give you this discount. Because, see, they don't want to have unsold advertising in their publication or their billboard. They don't want it sitting up there blank, or they don't want to have to run a public service advertising. So that real estate, they'll take 10 cent, 20 cent, 30 cent on the dollar. But when there's a recession, they'll compete, meaning one might take 30 cents on the dollar and the other one say, hey, we'll take 20 cents on the dollar. So that's why during an economic recession, this is incredibly powerful. Now, I want to show you something here. This is where you can create some serious long-term profits. In fact, the company that I learned this from, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk more about that in part 2. I'm going to blow your mind, some of the stuff you're going to hear about. But the company I originally learned this from, the entrepreneur that started this company, he actually made a huge fortune doing exactly what I'm going to share with you. And it was a side business that grew into a multi-million-dollar business. So I want you to take a look at this. Typically, this is how this is done. And I don't mean to pick on anybody, but you'll see where I'm going. Normally, an inexperienced marketer who's really a doctor or a lawyer, CPA or something, in other words, their forte is they're a doctor or a lawyer, CPA. They're not a marketer. They get this idea in their mind that they want to run an ad. They're willing to pay $22,000 retail to run this ad. Remember, they're not willing to wait. And so here's kind of what happens. They pay full page for the ad. Let's say they paid $22,000. And the ad on the front end only brings in, say, $17,000. Now, these numbers aren't etched in granite. It's the concept that I'm trying to get you to see. So here's what happens. This is what this marketing company and this particular entrepreneur started doing. They would look through these magazines, and they would find a company that ran an ad one time. That was the key. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if somebody spends $50,000 on an ad and it doesn't work, you think they're going to keep doing it? No. So that was a sure sign they knew the ad probably didn't pay off. They would contact the company, find out what the deal was, and in some cases they would get the rights to run these ads again for free. But sometimes they'd have to pay $500, $1,000. And here's the way it would work. The company that's selling them the ad or selling them the right to use the ad had no idea that this marketer had already secured what they call standby rates for, say, 20 cents on the dollar. So they run this same ad that grossed $17,000, and now they only paid $4,400 for that $22,000 spot. You do the math. 17,000 minus, say, 4,400, or maybe in this case, maybe 5,500 because they gave $1,000 to the company to run the ad. They still grossed a lot of money. And that's what this guy started doing. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can see how powerful this is, entrepreneur. Because this, you can hit out of the park with this. And like I said, in part 2, we're going to go into some other stuff about this and show you how incredibly powerful this is. So I hope I don't have to go any further about how an economic recession can, and if you think outside the box, can be a tremendous profit boost for you and I. So with that said, for those of you who want to discover how you can add an additional 25% more gross profit to your bottom line, you want to do so in the next 90 days or less without having to add any new customers or clients, You just had an indication of how that could be done. Grab your free 9-page special report. Go over to youcanmarketonlinenow.com/sales because that's where you'll get it. Now, here's a quick question. Who else do you know in business who's struggling, who could use your help? Do they respect your opinion? Because if they do, I want you to forward this video to them and help them out. On the other hand, if you're wondering what you need to do to get to the next level, then grab your free 22-part Small Business Marketing Mastery Series. It's an additional free 22 email sequential series you're going to receive on top of the free 9-page special report. It's my free gift to you. It's my way of saying thank you and welcome to the inner circle. Entrepreneur, I totally respect your opinion. So if for whatever reason after you subscribe to the inner circle you're not satisfied, please feel free to unsubscribe anytime you want for whatever reason you wish. This is Mark Newsom, Mr. Marketing. We'll see you again next time on the Marketing Minute.